Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Huge drama following the FIA's Prize Giving Gala, with Lewis Hamilton's P3 trophy for this year's championship going somewhat missing after the gala was concluded. It seemed like initially Hamilton had left it behind in an act of defiance against the FIA as a result of all the drama, their investigation now concluded into total enthusiasm that's been happening over the last few days. Then it seemed like a fan had been gifted it by Hamilton to take home and have with him. Mercedes, though, deny any of this has actually happened. So what is the real story? Who's this guy with Hamilton's trophy? Will they get it back? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. This was also meant to happen today, this panel game, or padel, however you meant to pronounce it, between Verstappen and Leclerc. That never happened though because, well, initially they said on the stream Max's schedule was changed, but apparently Max overslept. He was actually asked this in how was the padel tournament, is what the guy said, and well, I missed it, I overslept, he says. I think he was doing like a charity stream last night, so I guess excusable, but still a lot of people wanted to see that, and unfortunately it didn't occur. But this was the prize giving gala the other day. Here's Hamilton collecting his trophy, giving a nice speech to everyone, you know, P3 in the championship. Well done, says well done to Red Bull. We talked about his comments on this yesterday because he also talked about some detail on the W15 for next season. So he had quite the eventful day really, because he turned up wearing this outfit, then just trash talked them in the press conference, then dropped a bit of a middle finger. We don't know how intentional this was, but, you know, take it as you will, when he was holding the trophy, and then apparently left the trophy behind. The media initially reported this as that this was Hamilton expressing his displeasure towards the FIA with a simple gesture. That's how it was reported here, because it was then noted that Hamilton didn't take his prize with him, which, you know, you might expect to be the case. Does Hamilton care for P3s? No. Sure, he turns up, he says a nice speech, whatever. Does he really care where the trophy goes? No, I don't imagine that he really even knows where a lot of other similar trophies are in the past. And is it a particularly nice trophy anyway? I wouldn't really say so. And if there's a chance for Hamilton to make a bit of a statement, leave the trophy behind, people are going to pick up on it and say, oh, Hamilton didn't take the trophy. Is it, you know, is he showing that he's not happy with the way the FIA dealt with the Toto and Susie Wolff thing over the last few days? Which he certainly isn't, and he's made that very clear in interview comments as well. So when it was spotted that Hamilton's trophy was left there, or at least hadn't gone with Hamilton or with the Mercedes team when he departed, what's going on? It was read into, as we see here, understandably, as a bit of a gesture. So then people were like, oh, you know, comparing when Hamilton wore all those, you remember when the jewelry saga was going on, they were trying to get him to take the nose piercing out or whatever, and then he turned up with 3 watches, all these rings, all these necklaces and stuff. So that was pretty funny, and he's now doing it again, and people are like, oh my god, what's going to happen next year? Like, is he going to turn up and the FIA going to give him all sorts of penalties? You know, the more that Hamilton claps back against the FIA, potentially the more they won't be so happy to comply on other things. So yeah, apparently he was expressing his displeasure towards the FIA. Now, Mercedes themselves maybe weren't so happy about this interpretation, and they wanted to come up with their own explanation, but it's a crazy saga when you get this from Nihad Nezirli, who comes out with this tweet. Hello, I was at the gala yesterday. Lewis Hamilton gave me the award and left. I have the prize at home now. So people are like, okay, who is this guy and why has he got the prize? And it seems like he was given it like as a gift from Hamilton before he left. Now, I'm not sure that necessarily tells the full story. And of course, people were taking this image and saying funny things like, oh, the regulation for fining a driver if they give away their trophy is to request the reimbursement of the cost, which will be €5, 25 cents or whatever for this maybe somewhat subpar trophy. But people are like, okay, are you sure, Nihad? Like, are you taking the mick, basically? Because this is the reporting that we saw at the time. And then he tweeted this out, which is, you know, this guy with, seemingly at his house or whatever, right, in the background, with this trophy. And, you know, you can see at the bottom that this is indeed the trophy that Hamilton was meant to be receiving. 2023 championship, P3, etc., etc. Even says Hamilton's name on it, actually, at the bottom. You can see Lewis Hamilton in, you know, it's flipped, but there you go. Congratulations. But then it was spotted that this guy also was tweeting out pictures like this. So it's the same geezer. I don't know who they're letting into these award ceremonies, but apparently anyone could just turn up and go in. I don't really know who this guy is. Maybe he's got connections or whatever, but he seemingly turned up to the event, and here he is with one of the trophies and the actual World Championship trophy with Verstappen in the background, and he just got a picture of it. What I think might have happened here, and this has been some speculation about this, is whether the drivers thought that this guy given the fact that he's up there with the trophies, seems a bit opportunistic, that they thought he was part of the team that was meant to deal with these. Because, Verstappen isn't going to take the trophy back himself to his hotel room and pack it in his own suitcase. Like, the team's going to deal with that. And the same with Hamilton with his trophy. So maybe Hamilton thought that this guy was part of the team that was meant to deal with handling the trophy getting back to where it belongs in, maybe it'll go to Brackley or, something like that. So this was the tweet that he comes out with, checking the rocket ship RB19, meeting the royal family, talking with Max and receiving the award from Lewis Hamilton. What a night. So these are the images we just saw this one. Here he is with the RB19, probably catching a €50,000 fine or whatever for touching the front wheel. And then here he is taking a picture. We see Max and Horner and Jerry and Checo in the background and all this. And then this was the final one of him actually with Max with the trophy. So I thought the people that went to this awards, because if you look at this guy's profile, all it says is he's like a football pundit or something. So I don't really know what connections he has or why he was here, to be honest. Maybe there's a reason that we just don't understand. Or he just turned up and was like, I'll wear a suit, I'll try and get a ticket or an invite somehow, and then I'll just wander up to the front and start taking pictures with Verstappen as if, I'm some member of the team. So fair play to this guy, right? But I do wonder whether the FIA will not be so happy about this, given that I don't think he's meant to have this trophy, and yet he has the trophy in his house, as it seems right now. So still, though, with all this coming out, the assumption was, maybe Hamilton just gave it to this guy as a fan. He was like, here you go, mate. Like, I don't want the trophy. I'm not gonna have it for myself to make a bit of a statement, so I'll give it to you. You can take it, and if you want to sell it on eBay for a few grand, like, do what you like. But Mercedes actually came out to deny this. They came out with a note after this and said, immediately after leaving the stage, as has been done at previous prize givings, Hamilton accepted the offer from officials for the trophy to be sent on to the team and therefore left it in their care. We can confirm that he did not give the trophy to anyone as a gift, as has been speculated. So I guess Mercedes is saying this to try and calm down the idea, because look, the rumour was, as a result of this, that Hamilton was making a statement of frustration against the FIA. Mercedes seemingly wanting to shut that down by denying that this was done by Lewis. At the same time, though, it's not like Hamilton hasn't been critical of the FIA over recent days, and it's not like Mercedes aren't investigating, potential legal repercussions for reputational damage for the investigation the FIA kicked off. That is still happening. So it's not like Mercedes are all of a sudden trying to be in the FIA's good books, because they are very clearly not, and not going to be, as far as we understand, for the near future. But they still wanted to deny that Hamilton had anything to do with this, and he had apparently left it in the care of the officials and accepted their offer to do so. So how did it get from the officials to this guy? Unless this guy was posing as one of the officials, or whether the Mercedes story isn't true, or whether they left it with the officials in some room behind the scenes, and therefore someone took a picture of it and said, Hamilton's left his trophy behind, XYZ, and then this guy came along and just picked it up and left. I mean, who knows really what this guy could have done, but if it was a feeling at the venue that the trophy had been abandoned, then maybe he just took it and was like, well, maybe I'll just accept this as a bit of a gift. If you're opportunistic enough to go up on the stage there and grab the trophy and take pictures of Max, then, maybe you're opportunistic enough to basically steal a trophy. So this obviously was jokes going around about, well, Hamilton's now seeing the trophies in someone else's house and it's meant to be on the way to Mercedes. What's going on? And, therefore there was some further speculation here that, or maybe the trophies were on the table, the drivers were supposed to come by and pose for the official pictures, but Lewis didn't do that because he'd already gone. So maybe that was the trophy on the picture, on the desk, I guess, that we saw there. So then the guy saw nobody coming to get it and just nicked it and took it home. So just hilarious stuff, to be honest. It's incredible how one prize-giving gala can generate just so much buzz and talking points. So I don't know what the future of this is going to be, whether they're going to get the trophy back, whether that guy's going to be in a fair bit of trouble, because, posting all this stuff publicly is, didn't necessarily have to do it. He could have just gone quietly into the night and accepted that the trophy had disappeared. But he's made it quite clear that he's got the trophy. Maybe the FIA know where to find this guy, and how it got into his hands, who really knows. But is it going to get back to Mercedes at any point? I don't know. But also, do they massively care? Maybe not either. But they cared enough to do a statement about it publicly, which is maybe not something that I necessarily expected to be happening. So Very much interested in your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Hamilton also next year, if he gets top 3 again, will tie Schumacher for the most ever top 3 placings in a championship. So of course, Schumi won 7 titles, but was top 3, on 12 occasions. Hamilton was 7 titles, top 3 on 11 occasions so far, and well, maybe more to come in the coming seasons, depending on how good the Mercedes is, of course. But whether he can win again, it does depend in some part on how good Max Verstappen is. Now, Verstappen also had a comment today on what he thinks F1 will change to be or look like in 10 years' time. As he says, petrol will probably be gone, this is the way that I see it. And I would love a case, and I know that I've said this before, so I'm probably beating, I'm also kind of preaching to the choir, because I feel like most people agree with this perspective, that how about we get rid of the batteries and the electrical engines, the power units, and we start just going back to combustion, but using sustainable fuels. That seems to be, for a lot of people's perspective, the way that Formula One will go, and I think Verstappen kind of agrees with that maybe electrical energy will still stay as part of the cars, but I think that petrol will be gone for sustainable fuels in due course, and that could hopefully mean that we can bring back some V8s or V12s or V10s or whatever you guys' preference is without worrying too much about the sustainability side of things. The other part, though, as he says, one thing is certain, though, Max Verstappen will no longer be there. So, look, to be honest, Max has been around in this sport for a long time already. It doesn't really feel like it in some ways, but he definitely has. He'll be going into his, 9th, 10th season next year coming up, so the idea that he's going to do another 10 years is probably a bit of a stretch. Makes me feel like, though, because Verstappen is clearly adamant that he's definitely not going to be here in 10 years. So if he's absolutely convinced that he's not going to be here in 10, then what's his thoughts about 6 years' time? Is he thinking 2028, run the contract down at Red Bull, and then call it a day? Go off and try to win the Triple Crown? I don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but we'll see. Could change his mind. But Verstappen's been very clear on this subject for some time, and this is as firm as I've really seen him to say that, of all the things that could change in F1, I'm definitely not here in a decade's time. By the time he does depart the sport, though, we'll probably have some more records to his name. This is one that he could well take in, the near future. I think it might be Monaco he could break it, and then maybe the race before he could tie it. Actually, yeah, I think tying it at Imola and then breaking it at Monaco on this year's calendar is possible if he scores points at all of those races. So Verstappen is on a 41 race point scoring streak going back to Australia 2022, where of course he DNF'd in Bahrain, DNF'd in Australia. Since then has been in the points every single race. Hamilton's record is 48 races. He also had P2 as well, Hamilton, with 33. But Verstappen with 41 is now in P2. And of course everyone talked about him for good reason, the just bulletproof Mercedes reliability. But the Red Bull has been absurdly good as well. Ever since those first couple of races back in 2022, there's been very few technical gremlins where they haven't been race ending, or Verstappen's been able to manage issues or whatever the case is at the time. So yeah, 7-8 more races, Verstappen can take the longest ever streak. This is a record that will go eventually anyway. I mean, it's only point scoring anyway, so theoretically a lot of drivers could get this if their car was reliable enough, which hasn't really been the case until the last 5 or 6 years, really. Now, Carlos Sainz as well, speaking of reliability, we know that Ferrari have had some problems with that before, and he's talking about the possibility of catching up to Red Bull. McLaren has been able to do these steps during the season. I'm perfectly confident Ferrari can do it over a winter break. This is also what Mercedes have said, that, well, look, they can take a step forward like McLaren have done. If they can, they'll catch up, because McLaren gains, not far off a second really in performance from Bahrain until where they were their most competitive. So if they can do that over a season, it should be plausible to accomplish. Of course, it's very much easier said than done. And also, you've got to realise that the Red Bull's going to take a step forward. There were some rumours flowing around today that the RB19 was 60% the same as the RB18. So there was actually quite a lot of transfer that they took from the RB19 to the RB18, to this year's RB19, which makes me somewhat concerned for the competition in the new season, that they actually didn't put that much investment time and development time and budget maybe even into the RB19 and saved it more for the RB20, because there's been rumours that the RB20 is going to be more of a revolution than an evolution. So potentially what Red Bull are doing is the RB18 was the first car, the RB19 was the evolution of that, the RB20 will now be an entirely new car from the ground up, and then the RB21, I guess, in 25 is going to be a step forward on that. So if they do that, then good luck, basically, because if McLaren and Ferrari can catch up some time, sure, but then Red Bull might be, and I think they are, entirely moving the goalposts forward again. Just one final thing to mention for you guys on red flags and the potential drama that associates with this. We've seen it plenty of times: Monaco, Schumacher, Monaco, Perez, and many other examples. And I think it was Rosberg, wasn't it? Also at Monaco. I don't think he crashed, but he caused a yellow deliberately. Monaco is the easy track to do it at, but it happens elsewhere as well, that when drivers cause a red flag, is that perfectly fine? The fact that you can cause a red flag, the session ends, or even a yellow flag, ruining the laps of everyone behind you. Oh, I just happen to be P1. That's convenient, isn't it? And there I go, I've got pole on the Sunday. So apparently what they're going to do is if you cause a red flag, you get your lap time deleted, and you will not be able to participate again in the session, to try and penalise the driver and, incentivise him not to do the red flag that he causes. This new rule will be tested while IndyCar already uses this, right? So it's already a thing in IndyCar. And I think that they should consider it, because it would make sense that your best lap time should get deleted if you cause a red flag. Okay, you're already incentivized not to do it because you don't want to crash, you don't want to ruin the car, but there are circumstances where you do, in order, if you're on pole or if you're P3 and you want to secure position. Certainly at tracks like Monaco, it's a massive drama point really every single year. There's always talk, every single yellow, every single lockup, people are like, did Alonso do that deliberately or did he not? Same in Baku, you guys might remember Baku 2022. Alonso mysteriously locked up, goes into the runoff area, causes a yellow for Albon behind, ruins his lap. So, we've seen this trickery before and it will be employed again. But if it's just a red flag, then, there's always a bit of a grey area. If you're causing a yellow versus a red, it's a bit of a different story. But I think this is a good step, because if Perez does what he does in, maybe you guys think it was deliberate or not, but what he did in 2022 Monaco, and finds himself halfway across the track and the session has to be called to an end, and then he, goes into win the race in P3, predicting, I imagine, that the Ferraris up front would have some sort of a disaster class, as they eventually did, if you guys remember that Grand Prix, then it would prevent that, because he'd get his best time deleted, therefore he'd drop down the order, and would also be prevented from coming back out again if they were somehow able to fix the car. So very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. I mentioned the top 10 yesterday, so I thought I'd mention the other drivers here who moved forward. I guess one of the biggest winners here was Gasly from last year to this year, I suppose expected really, joining Alpine, but then Albon as well. I mean, he went from 4 points last year to 23, and, well, the others went somewhat in reverse. Unfortunately, the same for Bottas at Alfa Romeo after the great start he had at 2022. That could not particularly be retained, but very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.